Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here in attendance with me once more because today we're going to be going through our episode of this weekly pass NXT, which was NXT Gold Rush. We're going to do a little bit of a recap for it, just going through everything that happened across the course of the night, all the action that took place, and just breaking everything down that happened across the evening. So, first and foremost, we kick things off with the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships being put on the line by Chelsea Green and Ethan Page, the defending champions, up against none other than Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. Yeah, the build for this one, obviously, just in the past week or so, saw what happened last week with the celebration and stuff. And going into this contest, it was basically an opportunity for Joe Hendry and Thea Hale to cause a bit of a surprise, I guess you could say, would be the main sort of thing here. But alas, in the end, no surprises in this one, because we would have Chelsea Green and Ethan Page secure the victory here, retain their tag team championships. And they would do so via way of Thea Hale, who had a Kimura lock applied on Chelsea Green. Joe Hendry, at the same time, looks for a standing ovation on Ethan Page, and Page just manages to instead shove himself and Hendry into both Thea and Chelsea, and that allows Chelsea to sort of get out of the Kimura lock, get into position where she hits her Unpretty Her, and that would see the victory and the successful defense of their Mixed Tag Team Championships. Pretty fun match, to be fair. Had a couple of comedy moments in the contest as well, especially with like Joe Hendry, and in the picture, especially put up there with Ethan Page and Chelsea Green almost getting each other's faces. So yeah, just there was a lot of energy in this contest. It was quite a fun watch, and just a good way to kick things to get things started here, to kick things off, because it just had that sort of that fun factor to it, which is quite nice. But then also a little bit of seriousness mixed in there, because obviously with the Mixed Tag Team Championships, everything that Ethan Page and Chelsea Green are doing at the moment is absolute gold. So just seeing them just keeping going here is just a great thing. So yeah, not a bad match, quite fun for sure, and a decent way to kick things off. We then go into our second match of the night, which would see the North American Championship for the women's side being defended, and that would be by Blake Monroe. She would put her gold on the line up against Sol Ruka, the woman who never lost the title in the first place, going back to obviously the stuff with Zarya. So with the matchup being very good, not gonna lie, it was extremely fun watch, this one, just full of quality, back and forth, just great vibe to the contest. It gets to a point where Monroe has really targeted the weakened knee of Sol Ruka, and she is really sort of like lasered in, zoned in on this knee, to the point where she's basically just doing nothing but attacking it at this point. Submission holds and just general attacks from like using the ropes and things, stomping her foot, this, that, and the other. So making Sol Ruka's life very, very problematic. And Zarya, watching on, you can see she's sort of getting a little bit sort of frustrated and upset about her close friend Sol Ruka here being in a lot of pain. And once the second application of the knee bar is applied from Blake Monroe, Zarya does end up making a decision. She goes to the sort of like the timekeeper's area, and she grabs a towel before then throwing it into the ring to give Blake Monroe the win to hold on to her championship. So yeah, Zarya choosing to do things here in her own sort of way, and to basically say that Sol was in too much detriment. She didn't want her friend to be hurt any further. And I guess looking out for her friend in that sense. But it's just the animosity here between the situation. Sol Ruka and Zarya not really seeing, on the same page here. There'd be a little bit of a backstage segment between these two later on the night, talking about what happened. And Sol would be very defensive, saying, "Look, I didn't lose my championship in the first place, and now look here, you've made the decision again. You're doing it for me. I wasn't going to tap out." And Zarya defends herself, saying, "Yeah, you weren't going to tap out. What would have happened to you in the end? That injury would have got even worse." So it's they're not going to see the same side of this one. It's not the same wavelength at all, to be fair. But Blake Monroe comes out of this one with a championship still in her clutches. Then we would have the NXT champion Ricky Saints get into the ring, and he would basically just be standing there, and immediately we'd see Obafemi come on down as well. So they'd have a bit of a face-to-face. Ricky goes on to say the following things, like he wasn't surprised by Oba returning after that last man standing match against Trick Williams. He says that everyone was surprised that he beat Obafemi, though, except for him. He says Oba underestimated him before saying that he's glad Oba is actually back. Oba then chimes in saying nothing has changed in the time that he went away, before saying that he didn't care for any of the NXT TNA nonsense, as he called it, or who was the best dressed between Saints and Williams. He says that he went back home to get back to the version that made him who he is, and he says that the ruler is back, the destroyer is back, the bringer of war is back, and that Ricky's daddy is home. Saints issues a rematch for the NXT title at Deadline. Before then, we have Trick Williams come on down to have his say. Doesn't really get too much out of it, though. He basically says that, it's not over until he gets the title back. But, as he says that, he gets smashed in the back by a chair from Miles Bourne. Miles Bourne then picks up a mic and says that he will be the Iron Survivor. So he will be seeing one of either Ricky or Oba when it comes to New Year's Evil. So, yeah, very heated NXT Championship picture here towards the end of our first half of NXT Gold Rush. What did you make of this first half, Nick? Obviously, with the Mixed Tag Team Championship contest for the AAA titles. That was quite a fun contest. I hope you agree. Blake Monroe and Sol Ruka put on a really good match as well there. And then, obviously, Zarya throwing in the towel for Sol. Quite the interesting move. And then Ricky and Oba with, that face-to-face. Trick Williams still trying to be involved in this. We thought he was going to main roster. But is he doing the Roxanne Perez and this sort of long wait to go up there? Maybe he is. But Miles Bourne seems very interested on that Iron Survivor picture. Could he be in the match and could he win? That's another conversation for another day. But what do you make of the first half?
Yeah, pretty good first half for me. The mixed tag match I thought was great. I am probably put that as the best match of the night for me. Crowd was really hot for that one. Chelsea hitting the Unpretty Her to get the win and still your AAA mixed tag team champions. Yeah, just going to sing more praise on Chelsea Green, Ethan Page, as you kind of alluded to. Everything they do turns to gold. They have for each of the biggest countries in North America, they have a title for it. So if I'm WWE, I'm putting these guys together and for as long as I can, writing that out. Just everything about them is great. And this match was great. Had a perfect mix and blend of a bit of comedy and a bit of seriousness and some good wrestling to boot. So yeah, loved everything about this match in general. And I love everything that Thea Hale and Joe Henry are working nice together. At first I was like, what are you doing? But they're just both strange enough to work together. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I just love the mixed match tag dynamic. I loved it when they did it in WWE. It just makes for some fresh scenes, fresh moves, fresh interactions. The rumor being, at least recently, that they are thinking about doing a division of that mixed match division, and I'm all for it because it just keeps everything fresh. So I'm all here for it. So yeah, great match here, and I think probably we will see more of Thea and Joe Hendry going forward. But great way to kick off NXT this week. The Sol Ruka Blake Monroe match. Yeah, once again, Sol Ruka trying to win back that title she never really lost. Some pretty cool spots here by Sol, especially the one-legged kip up, but that was great. The clear story here being, of course, about Sol's brace, and I thought Blake did a good job of hitting on that, and Zarya playing, concerned friend on the sidelines. I thought that was great as well. Yeah, Zarya just wants, Sol Ruka to be healthy. One title reign, getting that title back isn't worth, your career, which is kind of the role she's playing. So, and as you alluded to, the segment later, clearly Sol not thrilled about Zarya doing that on her behalf. So once again, setting up some kind of interaction between these guys. It feels like we've been doing that forever. I don't know. Zarya seems like the down to earth person right now, whereas Sol's just kind of, I guess she's tougher than Zarya thinks she is. I guess is kind of the point. But playing the concerned friend route there, I think the way they're playing it out, it seems like Sol's kind of having more heel tendencies than Zarya. But regardless, Blake Monroe winning here, I think, was the right choice here. Continuing the feud the teasing of the feud of Zarya and Sol, and I think Blake Monroe looks great in the ring here too as well. She does great at telling stories in the ring, so I'm all for her continued reign here, and we'll see what comes next with Sol and Zarya. And then, yeah, the promo to end off the first half, Ricky Stanks, Oba once again coming back. I love the Oba promo about being his daddy and the best dressed bit as well. Trick and Miles then entering the scene. Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag for me. I think Miles hitting the main event scene is great. Long deserved and worked hard for that. But everything else here kind of feels like we're spinning our wheels a bit, especially with the likes of Trick and Oba. You know, as you alluded to, I thought we both kind of were on the same page. They were probably going to go to main roster, but they're both back here, and feels like we've been doing this dance for quite some time with Trick and Oba in the main event scene. But yeah, I don't know. Nice to see Miles here. Everyone else, I guess it's nice to see Oba back, but again, I just kind of thought he was going to main along with Trick. So yeah, we'll wait and see. I'm sure they'll make it great as they do. Just a bit, mixed in terms of them still being on NXT. But yeah, great first half to NXT so far.
Just whilst you were talking, then I was just thinking to myself, well, what would be the reason why both Obafemi and Trick Williams are still sticking around in NXT? And they are both heels. So is it maybe because if these two both go, then what solo star do you still have that's a heel that's going to really be ready to step up into the position that these guys are occupying at the moment? Maybe that's the reason. Maybe they just are aware they're a bit thin on the ground and they haven't really got anybody who's ready to make that proper step up yet. So maybe that could be something that plays into it. I'm not sure if perhaps there's some validation to that, but maybe that could be the reason. Maybe that's why this hasn't quite happened just yet, and they are sort of like trying to bide their time. Maybe we'll see something in the next couple of months which sort of like changes the dynamic and the sort of depth of the heels of the men's roster, because Ricky's obviously a face, we know that. So yeah, I don't know, mate. It's interesting for sure. Maybe that is the reason, but I guess it's something to sort of speculate for now and to see what happens eventually. But moving on to our second half of NXT here, the Gold Rush. We would then go into our NXT Tag Team Championship match, which would see Javon Evans and Leon Slater challenge the team of Dark State. And I think in this one, it was always going to be a matter of the numbers game. 4 versus 2. That's what Dark State brings to the table. That's what they always do. So trying to really get that to happen is quite interesting. But I think that this one had a fun feel to it. Despite the numbers game, despite the outside interferences that took place across the course of the contest, I thought Javon and Leon managed to, do a good job of handling that for the majority of the time. It does get to a point in the end where Javon hits a frog splash, but he does only get a 2 count. With Leon in the ring at the time, Javon then looks to hit a springboard splash, but instead does hit Slater. Evans gets thrown out to the to ringside, and Darkseid hit the Doomsday device in order to get the victory here and to retain their NXT Tag Team Championships. It was a decent enough contest. Like I say, it wasn't anything like incredible, but it was good and quite fun. I quite enjoyed the matchup, generally speaking. Leon and Evans bring so much energy and just they just make a match just incredibly fun to watch, and that's what they did here as well in this one. So yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was worth, and didn't expect a tag team championship win here, so no surprises in my opinion from this particular contest. But yeah, just had a fun time watching. Kind of after that, we would then see Shiloh Hill on NXT TV for what I want to say is the first time that we've able to sort of have this sort of like sole focus on him. I think we've seen him maybe in a couple of backstage things, just like being there sort of thing, but not really doing anything in particular. But this is the first time we're actually seeing him where the focus is all on him. The attention is there for his and only him. This was an interesting segment because he's basically sat in front of sort of like a setup with a monitor and stuff, keyboard, mouse, that kind of jazz in front of him. And he basically talks about who he is, who he has been, and what he's gone through in his life. So he mentioned things along the lines of like he used to play football and stuff, and he basically was a bit too aggressive and dangerous to begin with. I think he said he actually suplexed somebody during a match. Obviously, that's not what you're meant to be doing, but he attracted a lot of attention from other teams, and he had numerous offers here, there, and everywhere. But he got to a point where he realized he just loved inflicting punishment on people so much. He loved inflicting pain that it just brought him so much joy that he had to sort of try and make it a more of a regular thing. So eventually got into into the wrestling business, and this allowed him to sort of just to really pique his passion for physically hurting people. So it was quite the eerie segment here, not because of like a spooky vibe, but just generally speaking, this is a guy who is just telling you that he just means business, and he's ready to come out and assert his dominance very, very soon. Is that potentially what I was talking about earlier with maybe a heel sort of not being present in the division that is ready to take that step? I'm not saying it's Shiloh, but maybe it's a little bit of depth added into the conversation. But yeah, he's coming soon, the winner of LFG Season 2. I'm excited for his debut because he is pretty good. He's pretty fun. So I can't wait to see him in action when it does happen to be. Then we go into our main event for the night. This is the NXT Women's Championship being put on the line. Tatum-Paxley with her defense here against Jacyjayne, the former champion. We've obviously got the culling at ringside. We've also got Fatal Influence members, Lady Reed and Fallon Henley, accompanying Jacyjayne as well. So the matchup is it's honestly a pretty decent contest for the most part of it. It's really good, back and forth between the two ladies. Just generally feels like a really big fight feel to it at the end of Gold Rush, and yeah, it had a good flow to it. I was quite enjoying it, to be fair. We get to a point in the matchup where Tatum kicks out of a rolling encore, and that gets a big shock from a lot of people, from the crowd, from Izzy Dame at ringside, from Fatal Influence at ringside, from JC. Everyone seems to be, pretty surprised by that. And the NXT Women's Championship is eventually slid into the ring towards Tatum-Paxley. Tatum gives it to JC, though, who looks to attack Paxley, but the referee ends up stopping her. Paxley ends up being sent to ringside as a result of the situation, and Spears and Vance, this is where they come into play here, and they actually stop Tatum from getting back into the ring. Tatum, looking like a deer in headlights for a second, sort of doesn't know what to do, turns to her right, and it gets absolutely leveled by a big boot from Izzy Dame, and that is where we see, obviously, just the inner turmoil come out here between the culling. Izzy sends Tatum back into the ring. JC hits another rolling encore, and this time it is enough to win back the NXT Women's Championship. So a big old turn here for the books. The culling seemingly, separating themselves between them and Tatum-Paxley. Izzy Dame just looking absolutely brutal here at the end, just ragdolling Tatum-Paxley eventually, and just, yeah, I guess Tatum was blindsided. She trusted them too much. She was in a compromising position, and eventually it just got to a point where the culling just had enough of her. So this is what it is. This is what it is, basically. But yeah, Jacyjayne with a second title reign now that she's starting off here. Honestly, quite surprised by it. I didn't think we'd have another JC reign. I thought the first one was very, very good, and she deserved her flowers for it. So this is going to be interesting. Is she going to be in for another long run? I don't know if she will be, but I guess we'll have to wait and see how things go. But for now, Jacyjayne with your NXT Women's Championship victory at the end of this NXT Gold Rush. Nick, what did you make of our second half here? The Tag Team Championship match, Charlotte Hill's coming out moment for the promo there, and obviously Tatum-Paxley losing out on that Women's Championship matchup, with Jacyjayne once again at the top of the division.
Yeah, I thought the tag match was good. I think Dark State winning obviously is the right call. But yeah, just another great chapter in Leon and Javon's history. I think I've said it before. I think they would make a great tag team if we can get them on the same brand. But even when they lose, they're impressive to watch. They just make for entertaining contest, and I think Dark State beating them, is no small feat and one to scoff at. So it was an entertaining match for this one. With Dark State winning, I think, and retaining those NXT Tag Team Championships was the right call. The Shiloh Hill promo was interesting. He kind of hit on that a bit through LFG about his dark web stuff and his Twitter account or X account being very different. So clearly they're going with that angle. It definitely is something different. So I'll give them that. I think it's too early to tell how exactly I'll like it, but it is definitely something different. So it's curious to see how that kind of translates to his in-ring, if it does at all. Interesting to see where they take that. And then the main event, lots to talk about there. The match itself I thought was good as well. Jacyjayne just becomes such a consistent performer through her title reign, and once she's gotten off of it, she just hits everything. You do feel bad for Tatum. A very short reign, and seemingly every time she's in commentary, team hit on this as well. Every time she kind of feels like she's hitting a stride or getting in the swing of things, someone turns her back on her, whether it be intentional or not. Obviously, this time with Izzy Dane being intentional, and they'd been teasing that. You could kind of see the seeds planted there with Izzy and the culling, but just crazy because how long have we been seeing those seeds planted with Zarya and Soul? But culling made very quick work of that story, and sometimes I think that's how it should be done. The long-term storytelling does pay off from time to time, but occasionally it is done too long. And so this one being short and sweet, I kind of like that. And then Fatal Influence getting the win in here with Jacyjayne becoming our two-time Women NXT champion. I love it. Fatal Influence hits. I love the group. Very entertaining, and everything they do seemingly uh, turns to gold. So I do think JC on this next reign, I think should absolutely kind of mention the fact that she was dubbed the transitional champion on her first reign. Obviously, that wasn't the case. It was a pretty lengthy reign. And she should absolutely hit on the fact that Tatum was the actual transitional champ. I think that would give her some good heat. Obviously, Tatum has that very big baby face momentum now, having been turned on. Essentially, she was going up against 5 people. So for her to lose there doesn't, I don't think is any issues with her. So I think they should capitalize on all of those angles. Tatum versus Izzy should be great as well. But in terms of Fatal Influence, I think. The elephant in the room. I think Lainey Reed obviously is going to be a big star. I think she has a ton of potential. But Fallon Henley, I think, needs to probably. I think this reign should probably end with Fallon Henley turning on JC. I think Fallon is just, she just feels like she has that it factor. As do I guess all of them. But Fallon, I think, is the biggest. Occurrence of that. So I think she needs to find a way to either get out of the group or turn on JC. I think that needs to happen with this next reign. But I'm looking forward to it. All of these turned angles here with Izzy turning and Fatal Influence and kind of seeing what they have booked for us next. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a great NXT. Obviously, lots of title matches with just the one changing hands, and it was a great way to end. I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. Pretty solid show around, and yeah, looking forward to the next week of Gold Rush.
Yeah, pretty solid show for sure. Really enjoyed, just generally speaking, the majority of the night. Only really a couple of little things that maybe I would have maybe done a little bit differently myself, but just for what they put on, I thought it was a great show. Javon Evans and Leon Slater lighting up the tag team match was fantastic to me personally, and yeah, that opening contest was also really really fun with a mixed tag team action, and Soruka and yeah, Blake just putting on a really really good contest. The twist at the end there with Tatum and JC. Obviously, with Izzy and the culling being responsible for that. Yeah, didn't see that coming. Well, I did, but not quite yet. I thought it would have been a little bit longer. Tatum goes down as the shortest reign in NXT Women's Championship history at just 24 days, which is a shame. It's sad, but I guess someone has to take that mantle eventually. So for Gold Rush, I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. I just thought it was a really solid show, just really consistent across the card, and yeah, did a really good job. So I guess now we go on to week 2 coming up next week, and looking forward to seeing what happens there and then. But for now, everybody, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. If you have liked what you heard here, then please consider hitting a like on our video and subscribing to our channel to keep up with all of our future releases coming up very, very soon. Please let us know in the comments what you thought about this one. We'd love to hear anything that you're thinking, whether it's good, bad, and different. This NXT Gold Rush was quite topical, so I'm sure there's something on someone's mind there that they want to discuss at some point. But for now, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. Take it easy, everybody. We'll see you next time, and goodbye for now.